Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right. Could I have your attention, please? Thank you. My name is Raven Whittington. I am your humble host, as always, for Good Morning Truckee. Thank you for coming. I am a member of the board of the Chamber of Commerce, now I guess the board chair. I'm also an attorney at Porter Simon Law, Sierra Injury Lawyers, and it's my pleasure to introduce this morning members of the Washoe tribe of California and Nevada that are here to present for a special Good Morning Truckee that's going to go for 2 hours. So thank you for joining us, and the turnout is great. We really appreciate that. As always, we're going to start with our sponsors. The presenting sponsor is Tahoe Forest Healthcare System and Kelly Brothers Painting. The latte sponsors are Town of Truckee, Auerbach Engineering, East River PR, Porter Simon, Tahoe Truckee Media, Truckee Tahoe Unified School District, 101.5 FM, Sierra Sun Moonshine Inc., Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, JK Architecture and Engineering, Goldring Travel, Boreal Woodward Tahoe, Contractors Association of Truckee Tahoe. The espresso sponsors are Dixon Realty, Lyft Truckee, Co-Work, Conference and Wellness Space, Mountain Hardware and Sports, NV5, Peak Digital Studio, Mountain Lincoln Construction, High West Law, and Elements at Coldstream, and Mountain Brew for the coffee that I guess was slow but is now here, and so you guys are all jazzed up. Thank you for the committee for putting this together. Jessica Penman, Ruth Gearsey, Melissa Williams, and Marissa Rudder. Kelly Cutler, Mayumi Peacock, Ernie Grossman, Gerald Herrick, Tony Lashbrook, Jim Porter, Deb Ryan, Ted Owens, Jess Carr, and Rory, as always, in the back. Thanks for making this possible with Tahoe Truckee Media. Okay, let's go around and introduce all of you. Amber, let's start here.
Hi, I'm Amber Burke. I'm with the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District, and I'm also on the board of the chamber.
I'm Erin Dwyer. Hello. I work at JK Architecture and Engineering.
I'm Marissa Rudder, Programs and Membership Manager with the chamber.
Let's work that. Colleen.
Molly Welton, Visit Truckee Tahoe. Jackie Calvert, Visit Truckee Tahoe.
Lisa Tenorio, Palisades Tahoe.
Jeff Smith, Tech Futures Group.
Greg Zerbel, Truckee Donner Historical Society.
Nancy Costello, Tahoe Truckee Brokers.
Deb Ryan, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation.
Karen Stanley, Truckee Roundhouse.
Kelly Cutler, Truckee Cultural District, and the board of the Truckee Chamber.
Let's go all the way in the back there.
Dan Simmons, Truckee Donner Land Trust.
Charlene Simmons, Tahoe Music Alive.
Christine Crone, Wild Cherries. With daughter.
Lily Brewer.
Amy Lyons Massage.
Eric, you go.
Yeah, Eric Hornvet, Truckee Fire.
Dylan Sheedy, Forester, Truckee Fire.
Katie Schaefer, East River PR and Marketing and Chamber Board.
Rick Stevens, Airport Board, Lame Duck.
You don't have much to say, then we don't have to listen to you, all right? All the way in the back.
Jean Fournier, I'm from the nonprofit Trails and Vistas.
You on your table?
Jan Zabriskie, Truckee Town Council, Nevada County Transportation Commission.
Louise Zabriskie, Truckee, Friends of the Truckee Library.
Sarah Green, California Trails and Greenways Conference.
Deepa Gupta at Yogic Wisdom and Namaste Yoga Studio.
Hi, Scott Spicer. I work for GAO, a Congressional Research Agency.
Erica Bennett, England Volkers.
Llewellyn? Llewellyn.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah.
Humble lawyer, Jim Porter, like Raven, but retired.
Llewellyn.
Llewellyn's Welsh. Llewellyn Red was the last person to conquer England in 1066.
Don't get him started, we'll be here all day.
He's retired too.
And he's not
California originally.
Ernie Grossman, local resident.
Lindsay Romack, Truckee Town Council.
Amy Schaller, the Old Lumberyard, and for another 2 weeks, the Chamber Board.
Mitch Claren, Chair of the Planning Commission.
Ted Owens, Tahoe Forest Health System, and like Amy, another 2 weeks on the Chamber Board.
Thank you, Ted.
My name is Irene. I'm from Kitson Museum and I'm the senior museum assistant. Welcome.
Carmen Lopez, Town of Truckee Sustainability Team.
Mike Rogers, Friends of the Truckee Library Board.
Maeve Donovan, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation.
Marisa Nadehi, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation.
Joanne Rabique, Truckee River Watershed Council.
Dave Olson, Rotary Club of Truckee Sunrise.
Melanie Conti, Town of Truckee, Keep Truckee Green Division.
Nicole Berry, NB5.
Jenny Kendrick with East River PR and Marketing.
Jake Gustafson, Tahoe Forest Hospital.
Alice Wong, Tahoe Forest Hospital Board of Directors.
April?
I'm April. Friends of the Truckee Library.
And Sarah, What's Good Design and Brand Studio.
Get you back in the door there, and then we'll work our way forward.
Eliza Taylor, Nevada County Arts Council.
Heather Heckler, Nevada County Arts Council.
Rotha Carlson, Truckee Library.
Hillary Hodge, Town of Truckee.
Kenzie Kingston, Gator Mountain Center. Christina Kine, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation.
Nicole Epper,
And I'm Belia Sanchez, the new owner of Poro Sacks.
I'm Rich Crombie. I'm the district marketing for Port of Stuff. So we brought our new owner here to kind of get her acclimated with the town and everything that's going on.
Okay, thank you. Step over here.
David Nelson, Truckee Tahoe Community Chorus.
Brett Logan, Truckee Tahoe Community Chorus.
Trisha Ruby, Truckee Tahoe Community Chorus.
I'm Darrel Cruz, retired.
And this table here. And you guys here. Whoever wants to start.
I'm Frank Grayshield. I'm president of the Zulshish, which is the Warrior Society. We're closely working with the tribe, but we're tribal people working some of the issues that needed to be worked on.
Lekia Aspen Perla, Degambia, Kalei, youth representative for the Washiw and Zulshish component. I'm Colby Perla and I'm part of the Washoe. I can't pronounce it. I'm so sorry.
I'm Matthew and Serrell, Smokey. I'm the chairman for the Washoe Tribe, Nevada, California.
Humaheji, Digandia Lisa Grayshield. I'm the executive director for Washoe Zulshish component.
My name is Clinta Grayshield. I'm Lisa's mother. I'm also secretary of the Washoe Zulshish Component, Frank Grayshield's wife. What kind of family?
Thank you, and thanks to all of you for coming. We have a great turnout this morning. So, Darrel Cruz, you're going to start us off. You come on up, and let's welcome him. He's a retired Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. Morning, Darrel.
Okay, and I got 30 minutes and you'll notify me, okay. I don't really talk a lot, but once I get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for, can you all hear me? Do I need to talk into the mic? Probably be better. Okay, that's good. Thank you. My name is Darrel Cruz. I'm a Washoe tribal member. I'm with the Hungalalti band, which is the southern band of Washoe. And I'll get into the different bands of the Washoe people further into my presentation. But I also want to recognize our distinguished tribal members. We got the tribal chairman, our elder there, Frank Grayshield, and Lisa, who's going to be also doing a presentation, and our tribal youth as well, and our supporter, Clinta. I thought there was going to be other tribal people here, like Melba. Is she here?
She was not feeling well.
Oh, okay. All right, so I just wanted to bring attention to everyone, so I'm glad you guys were here and you're interested in the Washoe tribe. I'm going to go ahead and get right into my presentation, and I think there's going to be questions and answers after we all speak at some point. Okay, all right. So this is the presentation. Washiw, the people from here. Washiw Adet, that means the people from here. So, of course, most tribes, and like a lot of nations, they all have their beginning, their origins, and ours is we have several creation stories. I like this one. This one was told to me by Joanne Nevers, who's actually a Welmelty or person from this area, in the Truckee area, her family is. When the Maker scattered the seeds of humanity, he saved a handful of seeds, which were to become the Washoe. With all other areas taken, he gave the Washoe a place he had saved for himself, Da'al, which is Lake Tahoe. He knew the Washoe would care for this special place, and they have from time immemorial. And so for Washoe, the Lake Tahoe is our most sacred place. It is the exclusive realm of Washoe, although there are many different tribes and people wanting to make claim to it. It is exclusively Washoe for thousands of years. It goes back forever. Lake Tahoe is the center of Washoe life. Its crystal clear waters are considered life in itself and supported all living things. So Lake Tahoe is a living entity. As you know, water supports life, and without water, you cannot have life. And so water is a living force, and people need to recognize that. One of the things I did do before I left the TIPO office is I started a document with the National Historic Preservation, and it's called a traditional cultural property, which would designate Lake Tahoe as a traditional cultural property. Which that does is it brings attention to the lake. It brings attention to how sacred the lake is, not only for the Washoe, but all people, and to bring attention to the need to protect the lake, preserve it, keep it clean, and respect it. And that's what that document is for. And so when I left, I put all the paperwork together and I left it to my predecessor, who's supposed to be carrying on with this right now. Let me back up a little bit. So my background also is when I was with the Washoe tribe, I was the historic preservation officer for the Washoe tribe. And I did that for about 10 years. But that's how I became very familiar with the work that I'm doing, with all the areas that I do work in, but also because I not can just talk about it because I lived it. And so when you live it, it actually means more sense. So I think I was the perfect person for that. Our tribal council had confidence in me, so they put me in that position. Before that, I worked in the environmental office of the Washoe tribe. And with that, my duties, I had a background in fire management and vegetation management. I see some fire people here, and I'll get into some fire stuff with them as well, because I've worked with many hundreds of different organizations. The Truckee area is home of the Welmelty or Northern Washoe. Anthropologists liken the Washoe as descendants of the Martis culture of the region, a known ancient people and culture. However, we've always been Washoe. The anthropologists have to put names on certain time periods. That's what they do, but we've always been Washoe. Captain Pete, one of our early leaders, I put this one in here because he was instrumental in doing work for the Washoe tribe along with other leaders. In the history of the Washoe tribe, we have to recognize our leaders as well, because these are the people, when they were in this position, the road was very bumpy. We were actually, how do I see it, on the endangered species list, you can say. And so with them bumpy roads, they began the process of making the road smoother for us. So where I'm at today is in part because of the work that these people had done. Anthropologists call us Great Basin people. However, we disagree with that term. We have always been here and distinct from other people. We have commonalities with neighbor tribes through trade and interpersonal contact. Most likely, we kept a watchful eye on our neighbors. You got to think about in the old days, your neighbors are going to be stealing your resources if you didn't keep an eye on them. And a lot of times that's how wars were started back in those days. It was a fight for survival a lot of times. I think all of you can probably relate to that because going back in your history, you all were tribal people as well. You were doing the same thing. You were all living off the land. You were part of the land, and you viewed the land as a sacred entity as well. Somewhere along the line, people got away from that concept or that connection, but it's all deep within you still. And that's why I see a lot of environmental groups here today who know that, and that's what they're here for, is to keep that connection alive with their tribal ties. This is a map of the Washoe tribe's ancestral homeland. So before, we never really actually had a map, but we had sued the federal government for the illegal appropriation of lands. In the process, we had to define where are these lands, so that way we can begin to argue what's due to us, compensation of the theft of resources. So you have the dark green area, which is our core area, and the lighter area is the nuclear peripheral area. We went outside of those areas to harvest and trade with other tribes as well. Can you guys see that okay? Okay. The four groups of Washoe: Hungalalti, Southern Washoe, which is what I am, which is around Alpine, Amador, Calaveras, Mono, parts of Placer, and so that's who they are. The Wellmalti, Northern Washoe, is like Washoe County, Placer County, Sierra County, Nevada County, all the way up to Lassen. Powaloo Valley people, that's over in Carson Valley, Eagle Valley, and those areas. The Tahn-Nu, now that's kind of a group of the Westerners. It's kind of a question for us, though, because we know they were there, but the thing is, where did they go? We think that a lot of that activity stopped when, in 1850, California enacted a law that said you can go out and shoot any Indian, which is the term they use, Indian, for $5, a scalp. And to prove you killed it, you had to bring in his scalp. And children were, I think, 25 cents. Washiw is the original Washoe name Washiw. After contact, the name transformed into variations of Washoe, Washiw, and Washishu. Washishu is more or less plural, meaning many Washoe. That boy there is wearing a rabbit skin blanket, which is made from rabbit pelts. It's intertwined and weaved together, and it was like the equivalent of wearing a goose down jacket nowadays. So it not only kept you warm walking around, but you can sleep in it and everything else. We were not visitors to the land, nor sought to dominate the land, but are part of the land in a symbiotic relationship with the land. For thousands of years, Washoe adapted to changes, but our lives were changed forever after contact. This goes back to what I was talking to you all earlier about, your connection to the land and the environment and stuff like that, and that's what it was. You all were the same way. It was a relationship. You cared for the land, and the land took care of you, and that's the way it worked. That's the way it should work to this day. The Ekwatapush Cave Rock is a sacred site for Washoe. It sits on the edge of Lake Tahoe. It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places as a traditional cultural property. So I'll tell you a little bit about the Cave Rock thing. Now, that was a battle in itself. For many years, the rock climbers had put bolts into the rock. They did all kinds of things there, graffiti, garbage litter. There were some good people, and there were not some so nice people. But because it is a sacred place, we had to go to court along with the Forest Service to protect that place. Eventually, we did win it, and which banned the rock climbers from crawling all over it. We have other sacred places, and it's like everybody has a sacred place. To this day, people have sacred places. You have all these monuments in Washington, D.C. and other places. This is our equivalent. It's been the thing forever for the Washoe. Once the rock climbing was banned, we immediately went in and repaired the rock. We hired somebody, a local person out of South Lake Tahoe, and he went in there, crawled up the rock with his climbing gear and removed all the bolts, and he put material into the holes to keep it from freezing and cracking. It was I forgot what it was, some epoxy thing, but it was repairing the damages. And along with all that, he also removed the graffiti that was in there and other things that the people had put in there, concrete built up and other things. So now that was what we had to do, and then the next step was to get it listed and on the National Register of Historic Places. And then a couple of years ago, part of the rock fell down, and it fell on the highway. So NDOT went in there and put an extension into the cave, onto the tunnel. In doing so, they knew that this was an important place to the tribe. So what they did was they created a monument to the Cave Rock at the Cave Rock boat ramp in that area. There's a little park there, but it'll talk about that too. So that's a positive thing that the agencies know how important it is. Oh, hey, Mayumi is here. She's the one that invited me to participate in this whole thing. So that's our friend. So that's what's happening with the Cave Rock thing, but nowadays it's more or less people are still going up there and putting graffiti on the rock. I've went up there several times and had to pressure wash it. It's a good thing I have a little Toyota pickup because I can drive right to it. But it's a constant thing, and not only with this, but there's graffiti happening everywhere all the time. And some of the most recent ones were a petroglyph site up there in Donner Pass. We had people graffitiing the place, so we work with the Forest Service on that. Other areas right here in the Truckee area, working with the other agencies to remove that as well. So it's an ongoing problem. So the language, the Washoe language is classified as Hokan speakers, an ancient language, which means Washoe are an ancient people with a long tenure in our lands. Our language is an isolate unique to Washoe. The language department conducts language lessons for tribal members. So it is unique to the Washoe because we do not speak the Paiute language to the east, nor do we speak the languages of the Maidu or Miwok immediately to the west. So we're an isolated group of people, which means as the other people started to expand and encroach in our area, we became isolated. And that in itself speaks that we were a very ancient people here for a very long time. So our language department, they do conduct classes for tribal members to keep the language alive. Right now our language is in not a, we don't have very many language speakers, fluent speakers. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is the rabbit skin blanket. This is the middle of winter, so that's all they needed. And the other people, I think these were just tribal members. I just threw that in there so you can see other tribal people rather than me. Washoe population declined drastically after contact due to environmental degradation, loss of habitat, draconian laws, and introduced diseases which we had no resistance against. Today, the tribe numbers about 1,600 tribal members. So when I say the diseases, that is pretty much what took its toll on the Washoe people, was the introduced diseases, because we didn't have those diseases. Once we contacted them, we had no resistance to them, and a lot of our tribal peoples died from that. Although assimilated, we maintain our cultural identity through continuation of traditions, ceremonies, and customs. This is a photo of women. They're going out to harvest the pinyon pine, the pinyon seeds, and this is the typical gear that they would use. One of the things I'd like to say is that I worked with the Zulshish Tahn-Nu. They're here, and we brought back the pine nut ceremony after years of it being absent from the tribe, so which is good. That's a living culture right there, and so our Zulshish Tahn-Nu brought that back. Government agencies strive to vanquish Washoe by laws and other ominous means. Government and Protection Act, that is the law that I mentioned earlier where it was okay to go out and kill Native people for money. Government agencies with trust responsibilities undermine the tribe's survival. So there were actually agencies dedicated to the trust responsibility of our Washoe people, but they were the people undermining our ability to survive. One of them said, well, we'll just move them out there to the Reese River Valley in the middle of the desert in Nevada. And it's like, we're not going to survive out there. We're not desert people, you know. And the thing is, that was their attitude. We'll just pack them up and ship them off. And so we survived those. Indian Removal Act is an ethnic cleansing. Basically, that's what it is. You remove them, that's ethnic cleansing, and that's the definition. Manifest destiny and allotted by providence meant the taking of Indian lands. That was another thing. They came up with these laws to justify their means of taking these lands so they can feel no guilt to doing what they got to do. The law says we can do it, so therefore they did it. That's pretty much true of all cultures throughout history, though. People taking lands, that's what people do. Indian boarding schools, children were forcibly taken from their families and placed into boarding schools to erase their cultural identity. We still see adverse effects on Washoe that attended the boarding school. So we still have Washoe people that attended some of those boarding schools, and they were not very good. What happened at some of those boarding schools. I remember speaking with some of the people who did attend those things, and it was bad that they did these things to little children that were about that tall. I mean, that's how big the children were when they took them from their families. They were just little infants, 5-year-olds and on up. Washoe women are renowned for their basketry. The art is practiced today. So we have tribal members who still practice that tradition by doing basketry, which was became a business for a lot of Washoe people during the turn of the century, because they didn't really have another means of fitting into modern society. They didn't have any skills like building a house, but this was one of the things. It kept them going. The current lands of the tribe, as you can see, the green and red, these are the current tribal lands and allotment lands, but there are other lands as well. We have lands here in Placer County, in Nevada County, Sierra County, and we're striving now to work on more lands up in Lassen County and more in Sierra Valley area as well. As you know, those are within our traditional lands. All we want to do is get back to our traditional homeland. Contrary to myth, the government did not give us lands. I mean, they took it from us. How can they give it to us? And we do not get free money. I still hear that today. You know, people think, oh, we get free money. I don't know where that came from, but I hear that from other people sometimes. Local Washoe names. These are names right here in the Truckee area. Walmatiadet, people from here. Our Modiashu, named for crystal, which is Martis Valley. Dabayorok, flowing through narrowly hither, river through town of Truckee. These are the definitions that were attributed to these names. Sometimes the names don't always have to have a meaning. Attabi Watat, Trout River, from Truckee to Reno and Pyramid Lake. Elet Malem Tetei, Woodchuck Hidden Settlement, Trout Creek and Truckee River confluence. So I know where that is, and there's a lumber mill there, I think, right now. But that was a very important fishery for the tribe as well. Kabuna Tetei, no meaning, old sawmill site. Gatsut Malem, Porcupine Hidden Settlement, confluence of Donner Creek and Truckee River. Gatsut Da'au, Porcupine Lake, or Awigi Behazing, Little I, Donner Lake. So this is a picture of the Nevers and Enos family who lived here in Truckee. These are local people that lived here in the Truckee area. I don't know exactly. I think this was in the 20s. Thought Brian Wallace was going to be here, and he's going to fill me in on that. The two women sitting here are direct descendants of the Truckee area. They served the tribe in many capacities and consultants for the book Archaeology of Desperation. So Lana and Joanne, they are direct descendants of the Truckee area. So when we talked about the Enos and Nevers family, that's who they are. And if you look at that object they're holding, that's a giant ceremonial obsidian point. I think it has to be ceremonial because there's no purpose for having something that big other than, for display. The object was found right here locally, and it was like 5 feet below the surface. So it was placed there deliberately for good safekeeping. The Truckee area has tons of artifacts everywhere. And everywhere you go, there are artifacts. There was people sometimes return things to the tribe. When I was in the office, they would turn a box full of obsidian points. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to whip through this. It's already that time? Gosh, all right. Anyway, there's a lot of materials here, and people have been looting the places forever. The Donner Party. The Welmunty has stories of the Donner Party passed down from generation to generation that details Welmunty accounts of the Donner Party. The publication Archaeology of Desperation documents the Welmunty story. This is a traditional winter house and summer house. The tribe assisted the Donner Memorial State Park with the Washoe display. The tribe contributed to the Sage and Forest and Fire display in the Truckee Donner Recreations Park. I don't know if you ever got to see that one there. It was a really good display. I don't know if it's still there or not. It's gone. Yeah, it was worth seeing. These are some of our leaders, the Tumus. These were the typical delegation. You had your leaders, their wife. You had your medicine man, which is Henry Rupert up there on the right. Ben James was the interpreter. As a consulting party, I want to get into this before I get kicked out, though, because this is an important part, because this relates to all of you in this room that work in activities. As a consulting party, the tribe maintains consultation with federal, state, and local agencies to ensure the natural and cultural environment resources are not harmed by project activities. The tribe works with Town of Truckee, Placer County Forest Service, Army Corps of Engineers, State Parks, Caltrans, Truckee River Watershed Council, they're here, and the other groups as well. Truckee Donner Land Trust, I've heard that name come up here in the audience. So there's a lot of different groups. The Washoe tribe has always been here, and where I was there, you don't see us walking down the street, but when there's a project, we're there. You'll know that we are there because, like I said, all these other agencies, we work with them. And basically, we just want to maintain our presence here, and we want to maintain that whatever project activities are not going to be harming the environment or the natural or cultural environment. These are our tribal members doing a site visit, and this is at a project here in Truckee. So when we do work with them, we work together to come to a common end, which will benefit everybody. Some local area projects, Truckee Springs, Truckee Legacy Trail, Coal Creek, those are just a few. Washoe Tribe, Tahoe National Forest, Town of Truckee on the Legacy Trail. This is the one that somebody asked me to put this in there. This was talking about Squaw Valley. Okay, so in the summer of 1852, an immigrant train entered the valley. A man with the train vowed to kill the first Indian he saw, and he shot and killed a Washoe woman in the valley. Other Washoe confronted the Washoe train, or the wagon train, and demanded surrender of the culprit. Facing overwhelming force, the criminal was surrendered. The Washoe immediately flogged him to death as punishment for his crime. Henceforth, the valley became Squaw Valley. Recently, in the last several years, we had made some changes to some of those names. As you know, that the Squaw Valley is not a pleasing name to Washoe. And if you read some literature out there, it is the way that they use the term squaw that became so offensive to the Washoe people. And so we had changed that name from Squaw Valley to, it's now Olympic Valley. The official name is Olympic Valley. People ask me, why didn't I give it some Washoe name? It's like, well, Olympic Valley was already kind of the official name. Let's just make it official and permanent. It is more pleasing to the local residents as well. And that is part of what I have to do, is I don't just go in there and name everything. I have to kind of work with the local people to make sure that everybody is happy. So it's one of those things you have to consider when you're in that position. So the tribe renamed Squaw Valley to Olympic Valley. The tribe named Squaw Peak to Washiw Peak. Squaw Creek to Washiw Creek. Palisades Resort. Okay, I'm getting there. The Washoe tribe worked with the ski resort during the renaming of Squaw Valley. Squaw Valley Resort, now they took on a big name change. It cost them millions of dollars to change their clothing, their attire, their commercialization. But they did that in honor of the Washoe people, and they did it because it was the right thing to do. And so because of that, we truly work with them in good faith to do everything we can to help them along their road to success. In turn, we became friends, and in turn, we also share in some of the ski activities up there. And we also do monthly lectures up the top of the ski lift at the resort in the summer months. Continuation of traditional practices, right there, the upper picture there, we have traditional fishing activities nowadays, so we brought back that, using harpoons, spears, nets, and traps. That's living culture again, and what it brought back was names that we had forgot about and how to go about doing that. So doing that has brought back a lot of our language and our culture. Tribe has lands in Nevada County and Serrell County, like I mentioned. We actually have lands there in Olympic Valley, the tribe does. Washoe are still here. The Enos and Nevers family reunion in Martis Valley. This is a group of Washoe, the Nevers and Enos family. This was several years ago, but you know, that's what I'm saying. You might not see us, you know, you won't know us if we're walking down the street, but we're here. So current events, I'm getting close. Okay, Washiw Festival, that's a really good one. This is going to be at Meeks Bay, and it's a festival, and you should probably come out and see it. It's an activity where Native people get together, Washoe display their culture and traditions there. There are other things that are happening there, Lakalelbi, Dagam Gum Sabai. Some of these are open to the public and some are not. Wow. I guess I didn't get everything. I think that's about it. But for more information, you go to the tribe's website at washoetribe.us, right? And there's a booklet on there you can download. It's basically a 40-page booklet, kind of what I was just talking about. But I wanted to mention to all you people, business people out here that I've worked with you for many different years. I've worked with the agencies, CAL FIRE back there, or not CAL FIRE. Truckee. So I've worked with all these agencies, some of them just doing fire breaks and everything there is possible. Like I said, you don't see us all the time, but when it comes time to something, we're here. Thank you all.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Darrel Cruz. We appreciate it. And up next, we have Serrell Smokey, who is the chairman of the Washoe tribe. Welcome. We're going to have time for question, probably about 10 to 15 minutes, depending after everybody speaks.
Hungmeji. Yeah, my name's Serrell Smokey, chairman of Washoe Tribe, Nevada, California. One thing I forgot to do was, for my slides, is I guess introduce myself for a little bit. So I'm the chairman of the Washoe Tribe. I'm also the chairman of the Intertribal Council of Nevada, representing all 28 tribes in the state of Nevada. And I am our Western Region representative for the Secretary of Interior's Tribal Advisory Committee. So we develop policies for the Department of Interior. Myself, I grew up in Dresserville, down south of Gardnerville down there. Joined the Army when I was 18. I was a paratrooper in ASIC and Airborne Division. Went to Iraq 2003, 2004. Came home and I served in the Nevada National Guard for a while as a military police officer right here in Reno, and deployed again in 2016, 2017, back to the desert out there. So came back and then just decided to throw my name in the hat to help our people. And so I've been here 6 years now, I think, 6 coming on 7 years as a chairman of the Washoe Tribe, Nevada, California. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of go around there. Didn't know exactly what to present and who all was gonna be here, but I really appreciate being allowed to come up here and present to all of you, and that for all of you being here and actually learning and listening. We don't have we don't have a lot of time. It's a short amount of time, but to get a lot of history and more knowledge for you all. But we're doing our best. So this is just real quick. I just wrote current structure. It's kind of where we're at now within the Washoe Tribe. We have our government is broken down for the Tribal Council. So I'm the chairman for the Tribal Council. Tribal Council consists of members of the 2 members of each community council. So we have 4 communities spread over 3 counties. That's 2 in Carson City, so we have the Carson Colony, Stewart community. Then in Douglas County, we have the Dresserville community. In California, on the south end, of the Woodfords community in the Alpine County. Those are our communities specifically, and we also we're unique in another way, is that we as the Washoe Tribe of Washoe Tribal Council have 2 representatives from the off-reservation membership. No other tribe does that. So we take care of all of our people. We've always been that way, and it's in our actual government structure, in our constitution, that we have that representation for all of our people, not just the ones on the reservation. And we also have an open seat for member of the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, which is also in the Washoe Tribal Constitution. But we haven't had anybody fill that seat in a little while, so it's still vacant. But it is in there, and of course that's why the whole Reno area is in Washoe County, because of the Washoe people that lived there originally. We are a sovereign nation. Our lands are held in trust by the federal government, so we really have limited sovereignty. It's just a part of history. If you don't know the rules of sovereignty, as put on tribes, is we were originally sovereign nations by the United States government, but when the wording actually was re-looked at by courts and judges, it was determined that, well, sovereign nations can do international trade, they can create militias, they can do all these things. So that was changed. So the United States government changed that because basically their way of thinking was, well, we can't have these Indians building militias and doing all this stuff. So it was changed to, the wording is now we are domestic dependent nations, dependent on the federal government. So that's not our choice. We would rather be true sovereigns, but because of the rules of government that they placed on us, then we are technically dependent on the federal government, which the federal government does not meet their trust responsibility. I gave a whole class on that to the educators of Washoe County a few years ago as well. So if you want that class, I'll come up and give you that one too. And then just in here, I just wrote also the Washoe Development Corporation. It's a business side of our organization that controls our revenue generating businesses, which I'll talk about a little bit more as we get into it. But overall, this isn't an organization chart. This is just kind of the areas. And I always view our organizational chart as our organizational structure, but then the membership as a cloud around it, because the membership is involved from top to bottom. Some people like to have membership just at top because it looks better, but they are involved everywhere in every decision that we make. So they control everything. It's all about the membership. That's the people we serve as the Washoe people. And so that's why I view them as that cloud around the whole entire organization of everything that we do. Just real quick, again, we kind of already went through some of this. The tribal lands, the communities. We also have the allotment lands, and you did see a map. Darrel showed some map of that. One area that it was not including are the which I actually recently received the map for, is the Washoe tribal allotment lands up in this area and up around Loyalton. There were original Washoe tribal allotments all throughout that area as well. Original allotments. And the allotments come from the Dawes Act, Dawes and Allotment Acts. That was the attempt for the government to give tribal members, for all tribes across America, give them a piece of land in hopes that they would just live off that land and not come together as a tribe anymore, and believe in personal property, and a way to remove tribes from being tribes and remove that togetherness. So that didn't really actually work, because most of the land pieces, like even ours now, the Washoe Pinot allotments, are on the sides of hills and cliffs. So you can't do much farming, you can't do much living when there's no water or anything like that. But that was the intention. And what happened to a lot of the original allotments were immediately sold back to the government for pennies on the dollar, or even less than pennies, back to the federal government, and making tribal people, native people, homeless all throughout the country. This happened. And with the current structure, the land being in trust is where you run into issues that the federal government is to make the best decisions for the land of tribal members and tribal people. And so many tribal members get an IIM account from the Department of Interior every few months or so, or every month, and usually everybody ends up with a check at the end of the year for their land of about 2 cents per year for grazing rights. And that's how the government deems what's owed to tribal members for taking care of their lands. There's been a lot of issues with that over the years. A lot of court cases, still ongoing, but there's still the rules that we have to use, I guess you could say. And I have down here just our original homelands and territories. What a lot of people use the term ancestral lands. I guess that's probably the proper term to use as ancestral lands and territories. But I don't use that word anymore because it has a past tense to it, and we are still here. We're not past tense. Our people are still here, so I use original, I don't use ancestral anymore. This is just real quick. Again, recapping some of the history. To add some context behind some of it, I put no lands for Washoe because it's in one of it's a book from the University of Utah and the studies that compiled the Washoe documents together, that when tribes were receiving lands across the country for reservations, we were one of the last. But it was originally stated that there's no need for Washoes to have lands because they're all just going to die anyway. That was an actual quote by the government. So we didn't receive lands originally. Most of the lands that the Washoe people actually did get as for reservations were given by individuals, or later on pieces of land that were just unsuitable for habitat. At least that's what the plan was. An example, the Carson colony, where the colony is, actually was the dump for Carson City. That's where all the trash went. And so they decided to when they were done with that, give that land to the Washoe people. So we made do with it. And they've created a colony, and it's the second largest colony we have. But it's also one of the first colonies and pieces of land that the Washoe tribe actually was given. The lobbying efforts when it comes to the allotment lands, I put for denied, because if it was the now and even back then when the allotments started, no tribe really got to choose where their allotments were. It was where the government felt that was the best for them, which is mostly hillsides, cliffs, no water. But it was originally stated that the Washoe people did lobby for lands up and around the areas. Kind of going back to myself personally, when we talk about the area, especially here, this is where my family comes from. Well, I have two sides of my family. My father's side is from Hungalalti and the southern Washoes, and my mother's side is from up here, this area. My great grandmother actually was raised here in the Martis Valley and Martis Camp area. Before she was taken away to boarding school, her grandmother actually took her, and they traveled around the rim of Lake Tahoe along the ridge lines so that she wouldn't get caught by the government and sent to boarding school. But when she finally was caught, they did send her to boarding school out to Sherman in southern California. And the reason they did that also, we have the Stewart Indian School, which is right there in Carson City in Stewart. That's a boarding school where children were taken, but there weren't a whole lot of Washoes originally taken there. Reason being is because the government did their best to separate and take children as far away as they can to these schools so that their families couldn't follow. So up here you'll have history of a lot of Navajos, that from Arizona. They brought them up here, shipped our people out there. Just another little tidbit fact for how this process worked, which is actually another project we're working through the Department of Interior, is the Federal Boarding School Initiative, which is a whole nother area in itself, which actually, if you want to read about, you can find the book online at the Department of Interior website, just Federal Boarding School Initiative. It's really insightful, a lot of history and facts. 1935, Indian Reorganization Act, Self-Determination. So I like to throw this in there because when I know a lot of people that don't know history of tribes think about tribes, they're like, well, how come tribes aren't, so far ahead if, our people have been here for so long? Well, it's because we've been held back for so long. 1935 is when we were allowed to actually have a government, a governing structure. So our government, our constitution is not even 100 years old yet. Before those times, the lobbying efforts that were done by the tribe and people, it showed our the leaders of the Washoe people were just selected by the Washoe people as a head man. Even my grandfather, Carnegie Smokey Sr., lobbied in the early 30s in Washington, D.C. For the rights, compensation rights for the mining that was all done on Washoe tribal lands throughout the years. And he was a little ahead of his time because he had hundreds of millions of dollars of minerals and resources that were taken from the tribe. What ended up happening with that was the government offered the tribe $1 million, and then that was it. Kind of end of story. Take what you can get. I put down Lake Tahoe Summit, 1997. Our former tribal leadership and former Chairman Brian Wallace did a lot of work and lobbying and working in government. And in 1997, it's when the Washoe tribe was able to help with the summit, and then they brought down President Bill Clinton, and that's when the tribe actually received the permit to operate. Excuse me. It was a year later, 1998, the Washoe tribe was given the permit to operate the Meeks Bay Resort on the west side of the lake, and also given lands in Skunk Harbor on the east side of the lake. So we still own those lands. beachfront property, which is really nice, even though it is all just rocks, so it's kind of hard to get in. The access is very difficult, but it's ours, and we, take care of that, and that means a lot to us. But 1997, that was the first time lands were ever set aside for Washoe people in the Tahoe Basin. And something that's not on here, but I put on here because I just remembered, about 2 weeks ago was the anniversary of Native American people being recognized as American citizens. So we've only been American citizens for 100 years, 2 weeks ago. There were many Native Americans who fought in the wars, who always did things for American governments, but even then they weren't even considered American citizens. So even after World War II, when the GI Bill came out, you hear a lot about the GI Bill. It's how a lot of families started, built their homes, housing. The Native Americans that came out of war during those times didn't receive one at all, and other minority groups had actually limitations that what they could spend it on. So. Just had to throw that in there again. Everything kind of works against us, but we're still there. We're still always there. We're still always helping out. We're still always being a part of the world around us, because what happens around us affects us as well. Current businesses. I feel like I might have missed some, but I started with our cattle ranch and alfalfa operations. Picture of our cows up there. We just branded cattle about 3 weeks ago, last month. So I was out there rolling around with cows. I grew up doing that as well, so I grew up out here. That's one of our oldest businesses that the tribe's had. It's not huge, but we make a little bit of money. It's mainly more of the sentimental value as being one of the first businesses the tribe has that the people always wanted to keep it going. So when I came on board, we had to figure out, okay, how do we make this sustainable and actually start profiting off of it, in which we have. The past 2 years have been profitable, and that's quite an achievement, because we were losing money for the past roughly 15 years before that. So a big turnaround. And WDC is the Washoe Development Corporation. We have a corporation under that. That's actually only been operational 3 years now. But in the last 3 years, we've made a lot of headway for the tribe. We've paid off millions of dollars in debt. We're able to renegotiate contracts, deals that we're not benefiting the Washoe tribe, and to make those profitable and actually benefit the people. We have the Meeks Bay Resort, which is this is our first year under the new contract, new agreement, which was very hard fought to get. We weren't just given special treatment and just given another contract. The contract for the resort actually ran out in 2018. Because that was only a 20-year agreement. When I said 1997, 98 was when the Washoe tribe got the contract to operate the resort. We didn't receive the land. So we had to create a prospectus and do a lot of work, which is having the corporation was extremely helpful, and put in our bid against multi-million-dollar organizations that also wanted that resort. And we've had to put a lot of work into it, not just why the tribe should still operate as a cultural perspective, but our business plans. What are we going to do to make it better? How do we give people the best experience at a resort? Because it is a resort. We're there to make money off of it as well as taking care of the lands, doing environmental projects. So that was very hard fought, but we did receive it just toward the end of last year. So this is the first year, the start of another 20 years. Once we put a couple environmental projects into place that we already have down. We have already invested $1 million back into the resort. We will receive an extension for another 10 years, so another 30 years for the Washoe tribe to be running the Meeks Bay Resort. which if you've never been, I still believe is the most beautiful beach on the whole entire lake. Right, we have a travel plaza that's down in Gardnerville. So when you go south of Gardnerville, right after the last street light, you're entering Washoe tribal lands right there. And so we have our tribal headquarters there. We have the travel plaza, which is a truck stop. We have the Micah Chevron that's going towards Carson, smoke shop in the Carson colony. We lease the billboards in Douglas County. So Douglas County actually doesn't allow billboards. So if you're down in that area, you see a billboard, that's ours. Because we're on tribal land. Those are the limits of sovereignty that we can use. We have the storage facility, which is on our parcel going out towards Carson, and the sawmill. The sawmill is, we just opened that. We just cut the tape last year, and we actually, just within the past 2 months, have our first lumber coming out the door. And now that was 2.5 year turnaround. So it's one of the fastest businesses that we've ever done and been able to get off the ground. That was in partnership with Tahoe Forest Products. And the whole reason behind that was multiple reasons. It's not just because it's a business to make money, but after the fires had happened, ourselves as the Washoe tribe were devastated with the Tamarack fire and Caldor fire and then the Dixie fire. And all these are all around tribal, Washoe tribal lands. And we lost the most amount of lands to wildfire that we've ever had, ever. And so that showed the need of more forest management, and that the forestry itself can only do so much. And what the practices that we were using were not working because these fires had burned so hot and there was nothing we could do about it. So the sawmill was a way to also give back to the land by creating more thinning projects, having a place to take the logs, because as some of you may know, most of the sawmills, lumber operations in and around the area are all shutting down. And so, but the demand is getting higher, which doesn't make much sense. It's still, the economics are kind of goofy to me. But, so we created that in order to provide jobs, have our Washoe people, being the original stewards of the land, continue to steward the land and get back to creating a healthy forest. And now, again, this is pretty juvenile, but it's actually in operation now. And pretty impressive as far as the way we've been able to accomplish that in such a short amount of time. Current services, this is not all inclusive because they have a great long list of services that we provide to our people. I have a TANF program that's temporary assistance for needy families. It's ACF program under HHS. Excuse me. But we run the only TANF program in the state of Nevada, and also one of the largest programs in California. We have offices, we control the Bay Area TANF programs, and that's for all Native people that live in the areas. So we have an office in San Francisco, Oakland, Stockton, San Jose, and now in Grass Valley. We used to be in Nevada City. So we run one of the largest programs, and it's a multi-million-dollar program that we do to help people. It's to help those in need, with children especially. We have our clinic, healthcare system. We try to do everything to be self-sufficient as much as possible. Our healthcare system is actually expanding. We just purchased a building in Gardnerville, in the Gardnerville Ranchos. So, we just completed a $2.6 million deal there to expand services and give ourselves more space to be able to provide more for our people. The Elder Firewood Program, that's what you see here. So this program started years ago. The Washoe Tribe, we did a thinning project in our land parcels in Incline. We have land in Incline. We have one parcel in there. We did a thinning project, and so we brought those trees down, and we're like, well, what do we do with them? So the tribe decided to chop them up and give the firewood to elders. Now, this was many, many years ago, but that program has been going, but it was very, very expensive and costly to the tribe. So what we did was reformulated that program to be able to continuously get and receive firewood using grant programs, and now we're switching to a business model. But what you see here is probably the most firewood that we've ever had, and we have a lot of logs, giant logs down in our woodyard area right now. So not only do we provide firewood to our elders in the winter times, but we also help other tribes and provide them firewood, the surrounding tribes, just at operational costs, just to cover fuel, the time. We don't charge anything extra. We don't profit off of it. It's just to help. And to give you an example of helping with this program, just this past December, it was about a week before Christmas, the Yamba tribe, which is out in Nevada, middle of Nevada, there's really nothing out there, had an emergency. There was no fuel being delivered, no propane, no electricity. I don't know what happened, but the people were in shambles. We were able to get our crews together and deliver over 100 cords of firewood to them because it was the week right before Christmas. We were able to do that in 2 days and deploy out there and get them everything they needed. It was very emotional. A lot of the elders there, some of them even started crying because they didn't know what they were going to do. But, that's what we do. We help each other out. We have regular programs, social services, domestic violence, law enforcement, police, roads, transportation, elder services is really big. We do our own elder services, as well as a lot of youth stuff in between. And under the TANF program, there's also our language, there's our education. So we have pretty much everything, programs to be self-sufficient for our people, so that we do everything in-house, so that we don't have to rely on outside sources. But we do still create partnerships. It's a big area of what we do. And I left environmental out because I'm going to do that next. Environmental, we do a lot of big programs with our environmental department. One of our largest up here in the Tahoe Basin is the Meeks Meadow Project. That's across from Meeks Bay. It's a meadow restoration. Yeah, that's a multi-million-dollar project that's been ongoing for many years and is probably coming close to completion this year. But also it needs management throughout the years. Again, that's us doing our part, keeping the forest healthy. We also do a lot of restoration projects especially around the Tahoe Basin area, and especially with the fires. We've been helping with the forestry to replant native seeds, grasses, plants, medicines, and trees. We push for the restoration of the Haunt and Cutthroat Trout, LCT. So I'm sure many of you hear people talking LCT a lot, because that's the natural fish. It's natural fish that was in the lake. That's what our people survived off of. And we also, beyond that, are working on doing projects to re-implement them into the spawning into the original streams and rivers that flowed into Lake Tahoe. And the Pinyon Pine state of emergency was a big one. We just did that. We went into a actual state of emergency through our government for Pinyon Pine because of the destruction of the Pinyon Pine, especially around on the Nevada side, for sage-grouse habitat. And we've been fighting with that on a government level for a few years now, and making a bigger stance with it. Yeah, half hour went by fast, so we got the time. But this is just real quick. Again, some of the stuff that we do, this is injustices. This actually should say, social injustices, but again, the Palisades name change, we call the S word, as you just heard, the Squaw Valley Resort. The name change just happened just last year. We passed a bill through legislation, and that's what's shown here. SB 391 is to stop the Minden Sundowner siren. If you didn't know about that, the town of Minden had a sundown siren from 1917 that was specifically to remove Washoe people out of the town, off of the streets in the evenings at 5:30, 6 p.m. And so we officially got that shut down. So that's kind of the work that we do. I have some other things, the celebrated colonial figures. I put Mark Twain down because, Mark Twain is the literature icon that everybody knows about, but especially around the area. But Mark Twain specifically quoted Washoe people as being the lowest forms of living organisms on Earth. So we don't really care for him too much. I talk about land back again. We were looking at land back purchases in the Loyalton area, the Pine Nut Mountain Range, and all around the Tahoe Basin. So we're actually actively doing these projects right now. Cultural preservation. Oh yes, and something that Darrel mentioned I was going to throw in there is Tahoe as a traditional cultural place, what they call TCP. I actually just signed that paperwork yesterday, so we did turn that in to the historic office. So that is actually happening. And my overall goal is to get the lake itself, the water, to give it personhood status. As Darrel mentioned, has something, to us, it is it is part of us. So if any harm against the lake would be like harming one of our people. Cultural preservation, we do a lot of that. And really the, how we educate people is the big part of it, and making partnerships like we're doing here right now. We don't get these opportunities as much as we want, and participation, really. And that's one thing that, like I said, I really appreciate everybody willing to show up here and listen to me ramble, which I could do all day. And I guess we're doing questions afterwards, so that's about it. Thank you.
Chairman Serrell, Smokey, thank you. We appreciate it. And up next we have Dr. Lisa Grayshield. Welcome.
Could you give me a Hungmaheji, Washoe de Montmo ke letle well melty, Ida Pawalu. I have relatives both that are from up here in Truckee and down in the valley. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting us, and thank you for coming and listening. It's an honor to share the stage with Darrel Cruz, our previous TIPO officer, and our chairman, Serrell Smokey. It's an honor. It's always an honor to be in your presence and to be sharing with the larger community. I'm going to try to blaze through this PowerPoint fairly quickly because I want to save some time for our Washoe Zulshish Tahn-Nu president, Frank Grayshield, and my father. So I'm going to move pretty quickly here. I'm a daughter, mother of 3 daughters, grandmother of 5 grandchildren. I'm a retired professor. I was called home in 2020 to help this organization kind of get back up on their feet. COVID really took its toll for our elders. We lost some of our board members, and this was primarily an elders organization. Elders coming together to talk about the healing of the people. They noticed challenges in our community, and also understood very deeply that the answer to those challenges were in our culture, our language, our traditions, and our return to the land. I taught at New Mexico State University for 15 years. I'm a counseling psychologist by trade. And one of the things I came to understand in my studies and research over the years is that the Western paradigm for counseling and psychology was definitely not going to be the avenue for the healing of our people. That in order for our people to heal, we needed to return to the land, return to our homelands. So I'm going to go through this really quickly. I wanted to read this disclaimer there's something over the top of this. So Washoe Zulshish Tahn-Nu, the Washoe Warrior Society, is not the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California. It is a grassroots organization consisting of Washoe community members, mostly elders, who came together in 2009 as an organization of the people and recognized by the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California through Memorandum of Understanding. Washoe Zulshish Tahn-Nu became a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2020 and entered into an updated MOU with the tribe in 2023 and is now recognized by the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California as a separate but complementary organization of the tribe with common goals for cultural revitalization and wellness for the land and the people. Washoe Zulshish Tahn-Nu recognizes the activities, views, and values of this organization are not in alignment with every Washoe tribal member. Therefore, we make no claims of being the voice of the people. Washoe Zulshish Tahn-Nu values their relationship with the tribe and with the Washoe Tribe of Nevada, or values their relationship with the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California. If any requests that we make for funding or otherwise puts us in a competitive stance with our tribal system and our tribal departments, then we'll withdraw that request. So I'm gonna title this presentation "A Dream and a Promise." And as I blaze through this story, I hope that you can catch on to this. Naomi from Moonshine Inc. had a fantastic article that that was published, and I don't know how many of you have read that article. Awesome. Okay, so I guess I can sit down then. She was pretty thorough. So Washoe Zulshish Tahn-Nu believes that the time is now. The time is now to build a ceremonial structure solely dedicated to ceremony and the spiritual teachings of the Washoe. We'll bring the people together to build it, maintain it, and remind everyone that Washoe are still present as the original stewards of the land. We're still here. Washoe Zulshish Tahn-Nu has been working since 2009 to identify land to build a people's house, a spiritual cultural gathering place of prayer that is separate from generating revenue, but it was solely dedicated to the people being back on the land and putting the prayer back on the ground. So round gathering structures were part of ancient Washoe culture. In the 1980s, there was an exhibit of newspaper articles in the Markleeville Historical Society Schoolhouse Museum that documented an archaeological dig that was unearthed before Henan Lake was dammed and formed in the valley there in California. I think that's still in Alpine County. The article said that there was a 10,000-year-old round house in this place here in the heart of Washoe territory. I returned to see this exhibit in 2022 because the ruins of the structure is now at the bottom of Henan Lake. So we visited it and couldn't find, we found absolutely no information that we could find right now, so we're going to have to dig a little deeper in order to find out where all this information went. But we were delighted to find that it's one of the few places that the Lahot and cutthroat trout still spawn. So I'm kind of getting ahead. ahead of my slides here, sorry. Boy, I'm lost. Okay, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be running through some papers here. In the yeah, maybe I'm not supposed to be going through this, so I'm just going to go through the PowerPoints. We in the 1970s, somewhere in the 1970s, a relationship with the Buryat people of Siberia was established between the Washoe people and the Buryat people in Siberia. Gosh, I'm feeling like I'm really not coming across very clearly, so I apologize. And one of our board members and elders of Washoe, Zulshish, Tahn-Nu in 2005 went to Siberia as a member of the cultural exchange along with Darrel, Cruz, our TIPO officer. And she was in a meeting when one of the shaman pointed a finger at her and said, "Has the yurt been put up yet?" And so the elder explained that there was an agreement that was made between members of the Washoe tribe during the time of the Tahoe Baikal Institute that we're unsure of the date of when the agreement was made, but it could be as far back as 1970, based on old photos that I found of the Buryat and Washoe together. The agreement was for Washoe from Lake Tahoe to join with the Buryat from Lake Baikal in Siberia and a number of other high mountain sister lake tribes around the world in solidarity and prayer for the land, the water, and the people. So Darrel had shared a little bit about De'ek Wadapush, our sacred place. Tahoe is the sacred center of the universe for our people, and Cave Rock is the place of prayer. So the bond of prayer and friendship would be sealed with the promise to put up a yurt in our traditional homelands near our sacred waters. So this slide shows De'ek Wadapush, Cave Rock at Da'o, Lake Tahoe, the spiritual center of the world for the Washoe, and Shaman Rock at Cape Burim, or Shamka, is a rock on Akan Island. I know I'm saying all these names wrong. Darrel's probably rolling over right now going, "You're saying everything wrong." At Lake Baikal in Russia. So, So the Buryat shaman prophecy is that a global healing can take place once the yurt is erected. Our elder was told that we were the only tribe of this group of tribes from all over the world that had been coming together since 40s or 50s, and maybe even earlier, because our lake is situated on a high mountain with ley lines that run through it. So the shaman had identified a number of tribes to participate, to become part of a coalition of prayer, to bring healing to the land and the water and the people in light of colonialism and the challenges that we're all experiencing as a result of a paradigm that doesn't respect the earth as a living, breathing being. So the prayer is to reinstate that kind of, that epistemology, if you will, the epistemology that the earth is alive, that the water is life, that all living beings have purpose, and that we're all alive, and we're interrelated and interconnected. So the relationship was started actually the photographs date back, this one photograph with my father dates back to the 1970s. And so I don't know when here's my Aunt Joanne with Buryats as they're praying. I'm not sure if they were in Siberia or here. And then, so we rekindled this relationship last summer. I had heard about this story of the Buryats in the Washoe, but it kind of died out. And very few of our people knew about it. In fact, our young tribal council, I think you guys were just babies, just little bitty guys when these things started. I was a mama with a baby in my hands the first time I saw the Buryat come to this area. And I remember we had a meal and we signed an agreement. But at that time, I was not fully conscious of the magnitude of this agreement that we had signed. And somewhere in the shuffle over the years, the relationship dissolved and we lost contact. COVID happened. Russia's going through their unrest and the challenges that they're experiencing there. We have numerous challenges that we're experiencing here on our reservations. In just this last year, we've had 12 deaths due to substance use, drug overdose, violence, degenerative diseases that have happened within our small communities. And we're just a small group of people, so to lose 12 people in a single community in one of our communities is huge. It's a huge percentage. So the goal for this organization is to identify land in the Tahoe Basin, to build Washiw Tanuango, the People's House. But first, we're going to put up the yurt that we had promised, that we would put up a yurt to seal the relationship, the deal between the Barriots and the Washoe, and put that prayer on the ground and complete that circle of prayer that goes around the world. So this really is kind of a world peace endeavor, you know. I mean, who are we, one small tribe here, to think that an action for building a prayer, a spiritual house, could actually bring world peace? And I have to say, what else are we here to believe in? You know, what else can we believe in? You know, what else is there to focus on other than endeavors that will bring us all together? The original goal of Washoe Zulshish Tahn-Nu is to bring the people together. And the People's House was, the dream for the People's House was for that specific purpose, to bring the people together so that we could remember our spiritual and cultural values, and that we could also make a statement to the larger surrounding community that Indigenous values and Indigenous stewardship is still alive, and that we're here. And we want to partner with as many people as we can in order to change the trajectory of destructive actions that are happening in the Tahoe Basin. And so it's we're in a land back endeavor right now. We've identified some land in the Tahoe Basin. We started a fundraising campaign. There's a few members of our fundraising campaign here in the room. The Truckee community, even as I stand here and I think about the readings that I've done, you know, about our people, that a lot of our people are no longer living up here in Truckee, and that some of our families were from here. When I read the literature, there's a huge hole, you know, why we left this area, why in such huge numbers we left this area. And of course, we all know that it had to do with the Donner Party coming in, and some of the shift in colonization and a value structure that was not salient to Indigenous people. But I believe truly that we are in a different place right now. And that the community is coming together to support a Washoe return from a spiritual vantage point. We have a government system and a tribal structure that takes care of the business aspects of the people, the health and wellness from a Western perspective. All of those processes are in play with our tribe. Our people are doing a really good job. We're addressing a number of issues. I can say there are so many things that are happening during a weekend. We have to decide if we're going to attend a powwow, or if we're going to attend an event where there's a cultural burn, or we're going to gather up together to go look at this land at the Feather River. There are so many events taking place right now because our people are on the move. You know, it's the time now. This is a time for rights of nature and Indigenous rights of nature. So I recently learned about the rights of nature movement in the last couple of years. As a psychologist, I understand that our healing is dependent on our return to the land, and that the Earth's healing is dependent on our ability to change the way that we think about the Earth from a commodity to a living, breathing being. Washoes didn't build houses on the edge of the lake. You know, that was not a place where we built houses. We came to the lake seasonally, and we prayed there, and we enjoyed the abundance that was provided to us. And then and then some of us went down into the valleys. We had camps all through here, not camps, we had permanent homes everywhere. Our people were snowshoe people. Some of us traveled, some of us stayed in very permanent villages. And so growing up with the knowledge that these are our homelands. And then sitting here in this meeting, in this room with all of these people who are listening to me stumbling over my words and trying to deliver a somewhat smooth presentation, and gratitude for you showing up and coming in here as we move forward in, the goal of Washoe Zulshish goom Tahn-Nu is to put the prayer on the ground. It's not about generating revenue. It's about prayer and ceremony and the original people of the land and our values coming back to the land. We're all indigenous. Every single one of us in this room is indigenous. And so we can connect at that level. We all love this lake. We love Lake Tahoe. We love Da'o. We love the Tahoe Basin and all that it has to offer. As a kid, I got to learn to snowboard because of programs that our tribe had. But largely when I come up to Tahoe, I don't see a lot of Native people unless we go to Meeks Bay or we're doing a gathering. But just to come around, we don't see a lot of Native people that are just walking around. We see a lot of tourism. And so we do have a dream. We have a dream that will turn around, that rather than tourism, that we can transmute that and transform that into a regenerative kind of tourism endeavor, where the beautiful presence of Lake Tahoe here is cared for in the best way possible. So I'm going to quit stumbling and would love to answer any questions and talk with anybody. If anybody's interested in helping with our land back endeavors, we have identified land, some acreage. It's the last piece of large wilderness land that's left that's privately owned in the Tahoe Basin. We're running a campaign to raise the money to purchase this land. We're going to put a yurt up to continue that prayer that was started, and then we're going to build Washoe Tanuango, which will take probably anywhere from 5 years. There's a roundhouse up in Yosemite. There are a few Washoes that have been on that project. We'll be transferring to this project as well, and it could take up to 5, 6, even more than that. Once we break that ground, it's Washoe hands on Washoe lands, and the healing happens. So we're looking forward to this. We're getting ready to put in this offer. We're very, carefully lining up our ducks, crossing our I's and dotting our T's. This is one of my favorite photographs when I was on the land. I was walking around the land and just taking photographs so that I could bring it back to our elders. And I was just really blown away with the power. So this face right here, this face is looking right at Dahlak, Mount Dahlak. Dahlak, did I say that right? Dahlak. Mount Dahlak, that would be mountain, right? So just Dahlak. We also have a fundraiser. Our youth representative here is an artist and has sketched out a beautiful picture of an elder, Ditehuya La de Ejip Hulel, that we're all working together. We're all doing this together on Washoe lands. I don't know. Did you want to say something about the fundraiser? Nope. Here, I'm going to put her on. Well, it's okay. I'm nervous, and I just thought I'd make you nervous right along with me. So Washoe Zulshish goom Tahn-Nu has been involved in culture and language and traditional programs. We're supporting tribal programs that are already established, and we've also had some gatherings. We've sponsored quite a number of gatherings. We are focused on our youth. This has been primarily an elders organization, and so we have some youth programming. We've been able to offer some scholarships to some of our college students, asking them for essays about how they will use their education and bring it back to help our people. So we invite you to join Washoe Zulshish goom Tahn-Nu in this land back movement. Our webpage, wzgt.org, will provide a lot smoother information than I did while I was standing up here. And I would love to hear from any of you, your organizations. I am so grateful to the Truckee community. It's interesting, to see that this place that had really been a detriment to our people is now reaching out in every way to help us to come back to the lake and to and for us to be a part of, or for you to be a part of the activities that are going on. Indigenous, protected, or indigenous conserved and protected areas, indigenous lands, indigenous rights of nature, recognizing that the earth is alive. All of this terminology that we're applying to our care for the lands will be coming out and spoken in so many different forums. And so I just invite you to get a hold of us or the tribe or some of the other endeavors that we're involved in. We're having a conference in August to bring people to the table to talk about regenerative kinds of processes around the lake. And if would love to have any of your organizations to be involved in that discussion. I'm going to stop here, and I want to turn this over to my father and ask him to say a few words, and also ask him to say a prayer for us in our language. Normally we would start and end every meeting with a prayer. Yeah, Frank Grayshield? I'm going to...
Get closer. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, great. I'll start out with a prayer. Just to let you know, and so that you can hear the Washoe language, an ancient language, a unique language, and say that we're going to be here. We're all here in a good way. We come away from this feeling better and learning something, that we will respect one another, that we will love one another, and that when we leave here, we will be safe and healthy as we go home, back to our homes. Waring, wege penyi washoe lake de wege ya ashale. Weedy, Lakalelbe, Dungo, Shamo, Kealeo, Gilo, Distot Tolehuya, Ida de Hamaanga Huya. Wadding, it was Lakalelbe, Leo, Dimin, Leo, Huya, Hamashuk, Le, Julio, Mahaangari Hamaguyuk es Huya, Digum, Hamoyokida, Waring, Wege Hamashuk Geyaha Eeta, Dikung Kaletle, Dinga. That's it. Be here in a good way. That's what we're working for. Just to give it, one of the things, I was a public health educator for about over 20 years and a public health advisor. I retired from the National Institute of Health in the heart, lung, and blood area, which did health education throughout the country for all Indian nations, and I was advisor to that program, that part of it, and teaching about health. I worked with Indian Health Service for about 17 years as a public health educator, and which really means that as public health educators are the jello in communities, which the invisible thing that brings the community and the professionals together in working on the health and wellness of the people. And one of the things, too, of history is that many Indian tribes, Indian tribes, the number of Indian tribes out there, they don't speak the same language. And because of history, as was briefly mentioned, the boarding school area affected my grandparents, and they really were brainwashed in the English language to describe what happened to them about knowing who they were as Indian people, speaking their own language, and they were taught the how to adjust to living to live in the changing world that the Indian people knew. It's a simple thing that Indian people related to the earth as part of them. We are the earth. The Great Spirit is also a part of that. And we understood the relationship between harmony and balance, which really is everything. You take what you need, you use what you need, and you don't take more than that. You respect what you take, and every living thing is equal. So you respect it as that. Respect the elders. Some of the values that Indian people had learned over time and how to live in harmony and balance with Mother Earth. Animals, birds, all the winged things, the fish, all of that. So it was harmony and balance and living with the land, and that was all. It was kind of forgotten in having to. In the boarding school, and it taught to me as an individual, as a person living at that time. I was born in 1942, and that's the beginning of Pearl Harbor. We see that all the time, and the progress that was made when, if you can think back at those times, what we had, what we grew up with. And I grew up in that same thing, and our family contributed to the war effort. We sent family members to the war, and so we were a small tribe, and so what we contributed to the war was vast in comparison, and. So, but in school, the things I learned is what you learned. We learned about. It seemed everything was what you call materialistic oriented, making money. We all have to make money to survive. Jobs, and how we did it, it all ended up with trying to get more money and using all the resources out there. And then we look at, but the thing that the non-Indian world had is that it had come into the Indian life by the Spanish. They came in here and they looked at Indian people and as the original people here as non-Indians, like animals, because they didn't say, they saw them as not having souls. And until they baptized us, we were not treated equally as the Spanish or the Christians. And so a lot of materialistic values come from the Christian area, from Europe, that came into this world. And so it was lost that we are all should be practice harmony and balance, that we're all equal, all creatures living, all wings, even under the ground, the soil there's things that inhabit, that living things, and we need to respect all life. What about what?
A couple minutes.
Huh?
Just a couple minutes left.
Oh, just a couple.
Yeah.
But when I retired, I had learned how to look at communities and their health issues and how to address them. And at that time, as a health educator, we were working on non-smoking, stopping people from smoking. That was a nationwide effort there, and it took the laws to help us achieve a state of non-smoking. This room here would be people would have been used to be smoking, and it's gray with smoke. Nowadays, it's pretty healthy, so it can be done, and it was hard, but the battle was between people making big money out of tobacco and those kind of things to set us up for smoking. And, time's almost up. So, anyhow, I retired. I came back here. I learned how to look at communities as a community health educator. And what I saw was that our young people in about 2008, 2007 were writing graffiti all over the communities, our own Indian communities, not good stuff. And we got the elders together to look at what do we need to do to address that. And we saw that we had lost our teaching our young people about the code of values of Indian people. What traditional Indian people have is you don't destroy your community, you don't debase it, you protect it from that happening. And our young people had lost respect for their community members and neighbors in how they were acting. And what we saw was it related to a lot of historical trauma that had happened to our tribe. And as you heard from our chairman, it's the tribal council has basically been a business council, and that's because of the constitution that tribes were basically forced to accept as a way of doing governing themselves. And that focus in those constitutions that were originally signed in 1934 did not say anything about maintaining your language, maintaining your traditional practices. It didn't say anything, so the tribes didn't focus on that. And in the recent years, 30 years, that has become important because tribes have saw that they're coming to a point where they're losing their languages. We weren't teaching our kids the languages, and that's who we are. That's who we are, is our language. And so, and we're looking at our youth today, and what programs are going on and what was being done with them. We only have today 5 or 6 original language speakers. We have a number that are being taught how to speak the language, but they're not being taught the values, the very basic things. that what happened in Catholic school. I went to Catholic school for 8 years, so I learned the 10 Commandments. You know, I learned all the prayers that you say, your meal prayers, the other prayers. But today I've healed from that. I've recovered from that. But I didn't know any better because that's the way everybody thought. That's what was taught. And that affected our tribes. And so we didn't take care of our spirituality, our understanding of the Spirit. And that's what it is. That's the essence of who we are as traditional people, and you all are too, is our spiritual base. You know, just to give an example of 1 minute, one point. Okay. To do that, we didn't have a place of prayer, and that's what Zulshish Tahn-Nu came to be. Is we want to bring back prayer to the community, to the people, and it's learning how to pray for ourselves, our land, the protections, things that are all good. And part of this unity, as my daughter spoke about with the Buryat people in Russia, is unity and prayer. That's the basic for inside the thing that is who we are. That's how we deal with it, and that's why our tribe wasn't doing that, but the people are, and the tribe and the people are now come to a point where we're working together to do this, to bring this prayer back. Thank you.
All right, thank you all from the Washoe tribe. If we could ask if you could stay around maybe to answer some questions here. We have one more nonprofit speaker. Kerstin, Kramer, are you out there still? Oh, yes, you are there. Yeah.
Good morning. I'll just do a speedy version. I'm here to say thank you. I'm the superintendent, chief learning officer of the Tahn-Nu Truckee Unified School District. I'm finishing my first year, and I am so grateful to the community. Your generosity is incredible. We got a new weight room built at Truckee High School, and one very impactful way that you support us year after year is Measure AA. That is our flat parcel tax. You contribute $148 a year, which generates $5 million for the school district. And what that does at each school, based on enrollment, they get a certain amount of funding. And that pays for our librarians at elementary school, the PE teachers, the art teachers, the music teachers, at middle and high as well. But at high school, it also supports our AP classes, so we have nice rigorous course offering. So I'm just here to say thank you for all of your support at the fundraisers and for Measure AA. It makes a big difference. And if you want to learn more and participate, we have a Citizens Oversight Committee that meets at least 4 times a year. And if you like to plan ahead, our next one is October 15th. The public's always welcome. The budget's set, and we share out about how it's positively impacting the kids. So thank you very much for an amazing year. We have 2 more days of school, and have a great summer.
Thank you. All right, we're not going to do stump speeches today just because we don't have enough time. We're going to do the door prizes. Before we do that, I want to give another big round of applause to Darrel, Cruz, Serrell, Smokey, Dr. Lisa Grayshield, and Frank Grayshield. Thank you so much for being here. Very, very special presentation. Thank you. All right. Now for the door prizes. We have some knee guards, bike knee guards, donated by the Start House. That is going to go to April Cole. You win every time. I mean, it's just, you're the luckiest person ever. Yeah. All right, we're going to do a return ticket to Good Morning Truckee. That will go to Devin Koch. Devin Koch? All right. Truckee t-shirt, very patriotic in time for the 4th of July. You can wear it to the parade while I'm announcing the whole thing, so you can listen to me and plug things into your ears. All right, that will go to Greg Zerbel. Greg Zerbel. A $15 sustainable gift card donated by Visit Truckee Tahoe. Ruth will have it, so come up and see her. That will go to Lisa Tenorio, Palisades, Tahoe. And finally, last but not least, a $50 gift card to Grizzly Menswear will go to, well, I guess we'll go to the other, oh, Trisha Ruby. And that is all we have. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Good morning, Truckee. Are we meeting in July? We are? Yes? Yes. So, all right. I will see you in July. Good morning. Thanks for coming. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to come up.